Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about that, your experience, because I had that a little bit down in the interview, but
Yeah.
since you want to talk about it,
Yeah.
I would say most comedians pull from like moments of tragedy, right?
Yes.
So I heard you speak about, your dad was absent, and now I'm hearing you speak about your near death experience, right? So could you go into the details of what exactly happened?
Okay, so long story short, I was in the print industry. I had a great career, about 13 years in printing. I had worked and got my skills up to where I was at the pinnacle of my job. There was no higher to do what I was in my job, my field. And just long story short, in the blink of an eye, my machine, caught fire, and that fire got right to me. It was chemicals everywhere. That fire got right to me, and it went from being a minor situation.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little flame on my ankle. I had a helper. He grabbed an extinguisher and all that, hit it real quick. Oh, get this on up off me real quick,
Mm-hmm.
this thing's not working.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, this flame is coming up a little bit. I noticed my work pants, I got chemicals all over it. Next thing you know, within seconds, flames went up and I took off past him to run to an area where I knew a extinguisher should be on a forklift,
Mm-hmm.
about 30 feet away from my machine. And as I ran, the wind caught the flames that were small,
Mm-hmm.
went up like almost engulfing.
Giving it more oxygen.
Yeah, so and at that point, I got to the area where the forklift was supposed to be, but that guy was on a different schedule that day, and the forklift was not there.
Gotcha.
And everybody's going on break. Me and my helper was the only person in that entire facility at that point. So there's nothing to help. So at that point in time, when I took off running, I didn't stop, drop, and roll in my area because it was chemicals all over the floor, and that was terrible, flammable chemicals.
Yeah.
When I got to that point, and I got to that area, and there was no forklift, and there's no extinguisher around, and my helper, he's panicking at this point. He is screaming, hollering, and I told him, I said, I'm going to hit the ground, but I knew with this chemical and this fire that wasn't going to. So it was a moment where, I accepted death, and people may think that, you'll be terrified. I wasn't terrified at all. I just literally said, wow, God, well, this is it. It ends here.
Mm-hmm.
Right when I hit that ground to roll around, whatever I could do, forklift man pops up right there. He somehow ended up right by that area and he jumps off, hits me with the extinguisher. My life changed forever from when he hit me with 40% of my body was. I mean, this is traumatic trauma. It's traumatic trauma. It's trauma to the body that you can't imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, at that point when he hit me with the extinguisher, I was leaned over on my side, and I rolled over. I could just look up. I could see fire on my machine, fire going up to the ceiling. It's almost a moment of shock. Down to my entirely white.
Mm.
At this point, my helper had pulled my pants off me and the boots off me, so one didn't catch on fire. Not to get too graphic here, but I'll bring you guys there. And it's hanging like string, like them old cowboy outfits, the jackets with the strings that hang on the jackets. That's what my skin looked like, arms and legs. So in that moment, I could see the shock and fear in my helper's eyes and my supervisor's eyes. I could tell it was bad. They never seen nothing like this. So in that moment, I thank God because I have resolve to where I'm never panicking and I'm always calculating and thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I thought was, Train, you have highly flammable, highly dangerous chemicals on your bare wounds. You need to get to a hospital immediately. This could kill you. So I never forget. And at that point, they left me and ran to the fire. So I'm by myself. I got up. I remember there was two young guys that worked in the corner of the building. And I literally, all I had was a hoodie on and my boxers on and skin, I cannot emphasize enough, skin hanging like strings all over me and just white. And I'm limping and I'm trying to trot. And I went to the area where the two young guys was at. And when they saw me, man, imagine just chilling. They're on their phones. They're on TikTok. They're enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And they just turned to their right. And this man is half dead beside them. His skin is gone. He looks. And I said, guys, we need to get to a hospital. And I'm really glad to tell the story. I never told this story in full in depth. And shout out to Elijah. He was one of the guys that was there. Um, they get me in the car, and I remember like yesterday, I'm in the back seat. I remember, the young kid had all type of stuff in his car. He was junky or whatever. But I remember I could feel every single thing that you can't imagine how you could feel in your bare skin. Like sitting on a soda bottle feels crazy. Or you know what I mean? So I'm telling them guys, we have to get to the hospital. I'm telling them which way you need to go. I said, guys, you got to call the police and tell them that you're going to be flying on 221 on this area, so we can't get pulled over. And they're crying. They're sobbing.
Mm.
I'm sobbing. I'm like, guys, I'm trying to talk to them, trying to hold on. It's unimaginable pain. And so I got to Lynchburg General Hospital, Lynchburg General, and they looked like they had seen a ghost too. So, I got there, and immediately they knew that they couldn't work on me. But they tried to get the chemicals, everything off me to get. So I just remember being worked on. I just remember the faces, these people look so scared. The workers, the doctors, they look terrified. And, it was so bad. I looked so bad that the helper who was with me, he was in the hospital room beside me. He had gotten PTSD. He was a military cat.
Everything.
He was a military cat. And all that triggered a deep PTSD in him. And I could just hear him screaming and hollering like he had got burned.
Mm.
That's how dramatic that was. It was so bad that when my mother got there, they held her back in the lobby area, and they asked her, like, we think we should show you pictures before you walk back. We really do. We want to prepare you for what you're. And so, I texted my mom. She, I never thought she'd be that strong in that moment because she's a big softie. She loves family. But she saw those pictures and she came in there and she held it together when she came in. So I do remember excruciating pain. And I remember them hitting me with shots that's supposed to bring down the pain. I remember still feeling this pain at a high level. So that's when I realized, I said, guys, I looked at my legs and the white was shining. I said, guys, I have a highly flammable, highly dangerous chemical on my open wounds that's where the pain is at. Man, Jonathan, when I said that, them nurses got to running around, man. They came back in there with water, jugs, and rags, and they're scrubbing my open wound. They're scrubbing. You can't even imagine, right? So I will say through the midst of this, and this is how, my mother said she has no idea how I could be able to tell jokes or be me in that moment. When she came in that room, and it's mayhem. They're running around, it's emergency. I said, Mom, we're good. Don't worry about it. I said, the baby maker's fine and the money maker's okay. Right? I say that, right? And my mom said, I couldn't believe you said that. I like, what? And, that's just, I don't know, man. If it's going to end, I'm going to be me to the end.
Yeah.
So long story short, they end up sending me to VCU. And it was so bad that they couldn't fly me. The pilot said, you can't fly him. He has chemicals that's on him. No matter how much you scrub, it could be still fumes from his body. And we get to that high altitude, it could make me pass out while I'm flying this. I thank God for that pilot of thinking of that too, because that's something he thought of on his own. He rejected the hospital's request to fly me. So I'm telling you guys, us in that altitude, fumes on his body, I don't know what could happen.
Yeah.
So he might have saved my life by doing that, but it made the process much longer. For whatever reason, Lynchburg General didn't want to use their ambulance. They wanted VCU and Richmond to drive ambulance 2 hours to me and drive me 2 hours back. So it's ended up being like a 4 or 5, almost 6 hour experience of not knowing if you're going to live and going through a lot of pain. Yeah. My daughter, God bless her, I let her see me when I was in the ambulance and covered up. I just wanted her to see my face to know that, Dad's still dead. So, yeah. In VCU, I was told in the ambulance, because they finally gave me something to knock me out. When I woke up, I really appreciate the manager in the ambulance for calming me too. He told me, say, Anthony, your life is going to change forever.